Hey guys, tonight we slip barefoot into the dense, warm mists of ancient Tenochtitlan. The city breathes in steam and incense, humming with the chants of priests and the rustle of feathers brushing obsidian stone. You're not just a visitor. Tonight you are someone entirely different. You are a child of the Empire, a future Jaguar Priest, and your story begins in the shadow of something very, very strange. You're born under a solar eclipse. The sky goes dark midday. Birds stop singing. Markets fall silent. And midwives whisper prayers to Tonashu, the sun god, as you emerge, blinking into a world lit only by flickering torches. To them, this isn't just a weird weather event, it's an omen, a rare one, a sign of change or danger or destiny. Maybe all three. They wrap you in blue cotton and call you a Tlazolteotl's child, blessed by the goddess of purification. You have no idea what that means yet, but people start watching you closely. Even as a baby, your cry makes older folks murmur and touch. Their forehead tattoos nervously dot your parents. They're stunned. Ordinary folk. Both of them. Your father a reed cutter, your mother a weaver of thorny maguey cloth. When temple scouts knock on your door a few years later, they almost faint. Your dad tries to offer a chicken to make them leave. It doesn't work. You're 5 when the Kamakak chooses you. That's the temple school for the elite for future. Nobles, priests, and warrior scholars. You get no say in the matter. One day you're chasing a lizard in a maize field. The next you're being marched barefoot into a carved stone dormitory where the air smells of copal, dried beans, and teenage sweat. Your name is written down on bark paper scrolls in red ink alongside drawings of jaguar, paws, and obsidian knives. They don't waste time. By the second day, you're learning the gods' names, their sacred colors, and how to sing prayers until your throat is hoarse. There's no cuddles, no lullabies. Your instructors are stone-faced priests with white robes, shaved heads, and voices like sandpaper on wet wood. Crying, that's punished with chili smoke blown directly into your eyes and nose. It stings worse than a wasp bite and makes your face drip like a broken gourd. Still, something about it calls to you. There's a rhythm to temple life. You wake before sunrise, bathe in cold water from a clay jug, and climb the eastern stairs to bow to Tonashu as the first light glows on the pyramid. Your meals are simple, a bit of maize, sometimes some beans, maybe honey if you're lucky. You learn how to grind corn, how to sweep the gods' courtyards without stepping on sacred glyphs, and how to paint your face with charcoal for certain feast days. You start picking up secrets, like how to spot a storm coming from the scent of the wind, or how to read footprints in the temple dust, one of your favorite games. You and the other boys make up stories about the footprints you find. This was a goddess, someone whispers. No, you say, pointing to the dragging heel. It was a priest with a limp. He always goes to the owl shrine. Somehow, you're usually right. Still, it's hard. You miss your mother's warm hand, her songs about hummingbirds and stars. You dream of her weaving maguey, the soft swish of fibers like wind and grass. But you don't cry anymore. Not since the chili smoke. Then comes your first vision. It's not dramatic, no lightning bolt, no ghostly voice. It's just a moment. You're kneeling during a moon ceremony, your arms stretched out, your face painted with bone dust. A drumbeat echoes in your ears, And suddenly you feel pulled outside of yourself, like your spirit's hovering a few inches above your head. You see your own face, eyes closed, lips moving in silent prayer. A weird calm flows through you. Afterward, you don't speak of it, but the feeling lingers. Some nights you sneak to the edge of the dormitory and stare at the stars. You whisper the names of the gods to yourself, not out of duty, but affection. Like their friends. Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror. Totec, lord of the flayed skin. Quetzalcoatl, feathered serpent. Their names feel good on your tongue. You start sketching them in dirt with your toe, adding flourishes just for fun that your instructors notice. One day an elder priest with eyes like smoked jade calls you aside. He hands you a polished shell and tells you to listen. Not just hear, listen. You press it to your ear, you expect the sea. Instead, you hear your own blood rushing, your own breath, your own pulse like drums from inside your chest. You belong to the gods, he says softly. They already know your name. You don't know what he means. Not yet, but you nod. The weeks blur into seasons. You grow lean, quick, quiet. You're faster than the other students, better at remembering incantations, better at drawing sacred calendars. But you also hide sweets under your sleeping mat and once sneak out to pet a tame monkey that belongs to a visiting merchant. You're still a kid. Even if they try to make you something more. By the time you turn 10, you can recite the names of all 260 days in the sacred Tanalpohule calendar. You've memorized the omens for eclipses, bad, comets, worse, and twins born on feast days. Do not let them near altars. You've helped carve a small idol out of volcanic stone, plucked turkey feathers for priestly cloaks, and practiced binding scrolls with rabbit-hide glue. And every so often, someone stops and watches you just a little too long. One morning you overhear two older priests talking by the courtyard pool. One whispers, "That's the eclipse child, isn't it?" The other just nods. You're too far away to hear more, but your skin prickles like it's remembering something your mind hasn't caught up with yet. The gods are paying attention. You can feel it. You're 12 when the pain becomes part of the lesson, not the chili smoke anymore. You've moved past that. Now it's obsidian shards, tiny slivers sharp as betrayal. Each morning before first light, you kneel before a smoky incense bowl and push a needle of black glass through the soft skin of your earlobe or your tongue. Sometimes both. You whisper a short prayer to Exochipili, the god of song and ecstasy, and watch as blood trickles into a bowl of woven rushes. You do this, not out of punishment, but out of devotion. Blood feeds the gods. Your blood, especially. It's warm, clean, young, and it's a sign you're growing into your role. You're not just memorizing rituals anymore. You are part of them. Your new teacher is tall, silent, and always smells like copal resin. His name is something long and elegant that you quickly forget, so you call him the serpent behind his back. Not because he's unkind, but because his voice slithers softly, never raised, and his eyes flick back and forth like he's watching something invisible over your shoulder. He teaches you to read the divinatory calendar, not just the names of the days, but their secret meanings. A jaguar day might mean battle or birth. A rabbit day might bring drunkenness or hidden treasure. A day with both? Best to stay in bed. You start fasting. Long, dry hours without food or water. At first you pretend to fast and sneak corn gruel behind the storeroom, but you get caught. The serpent doesn't punish you. He simply sighs and tells you that next time you'll fast twice as long you do. You don't cheat again. By 13, you're officially a novice of the temple. Your hair is kept long in the back and shaved in front. Your scalp burns in the sun, but the bald patch marks you as someone touched by the gods. You carry baskets of offerings, flowers, jade beads, hummingbird bones up hundreds of steps. Each day, your calves ache constantly. You chant until your voice gives out. You drink thick cacao before ceremonies and stay awake all night learning the exact phrasing of prayers older than anyone alive. Still, some moments are strange and almost beautiful. One night during the dry season, you and the other novices are ordered to scatter cornmeal over the stone floor of the courtyard and trace glyphs into it with sharpened reeds. The moon is full, and the temple cats slink between shadows. You draw spirals and eyes, jaguars and suns, each symbol echoing some truth deeper than words. When dawn comes, your fingers are stained yellow with meal dust, and your knees are sore but. You don't want to stop. Then something changes. You're summoned to the rain god's house, Tlaloc's sanctuary, carved with fanged masks and frog motifs. The air is damp, and the stones always slick. Your job now includes assisting in Tlaloc's sacred rites. The rain god is not a gentle deity. He weeps lightning. He floods fields and withholds crops. Children are offered to him during desperate times. Historians still argue whether they were truly drowned or merely symbolically bathed. Either way, your role is to prepare the offerings. You clean the frog bones. You light the incense. You carry the baskets of blue paper flowers and stone figurines. Sometimes you place your hand gently on a child's shoulder and tell him, in the softest voice you can manage, that it won't hurt. You don't always believe that, but you say it anyway. Your duties expand to the making of charms and talismans. You crush dried herbs, wrap tiny feathers in deer hide, and chant over amulets carved from smoky quartz. A visiting merchant calls you little sorcerer, and you grin despite yourself. One afternoon, during a frog blessing ritual, yes, that's a thing, a nobleman's son faints after drinking sacred water that smells suspiciously like fermented onions and mushrooms. You're tasked with dragging him to the shade and fanning him with a turkey feather. Later, you learn he'd been seeing visions of the sky opening up like a great flower. You wonder if it's a sign or just bad mushrooms. You still see your parents sometimes. Once every few moons, you're permitted to visit them, always in your ceremonial tunic, always watched by a temple escort. Your mother hugs you tightly, whispering that your shoulders feel heavier. Your father offers you roasted grasshoppers and won't stop staring at the tattoo forming along your forearm, a serpent eating its tail. You don't stay long. The world outside feels distant now, smaller, less real. And then comes the fire test. This is the moment that breaks some novices. You're brought before a sacred flame and ordered to hold your hand above it, not into it, but close enough to feel your skin prickle, blister, almost peel. You must stay there until the high priest finishes a full recitation of the Hiwetlatole, the ancestral wisdom speech. It takes 8 minutes. You last 9. Afterward, your fingers are wrapped in soaked bark and honey. They heal, mostly. You carry the faint scars for life. The serpent says they're holy now. Each scar is a syllable of a prayer your body never forgot. He tells you. You believe him. At night, you start dreaming of water, fire, and feathers. You wake up with words in your mouth you don't remember learning. One night you scribble something on a piece of bark and hide it. Later you find it again. It reads, "He who walks in shadow also drinks the sun." You have no idea what it means, but it feels important. More than once you wake to find your mat sprinkled with flower petals. No one admits to doing it. A prank, maybe, or a blessing. You don't ask. By your 14th year, a new rumor begins to circle, that the temple is choosing boys for a different kind of training. Not every priest chants and prepares charms. Some fight. Some wear masks of jaguar fur. Some walk into battle barefoot, holding obsidian-bladed clubs and muttering spells between their teeth. You're drawn to it instantly. Jaguar priests, they're called. Warriors of the night sun. They lead both sacrifices and soldiers, live half in prayer and half in blood. They say jaguar priests can speak to death and make death hesitate. It's probably nonsense. But still, when the recruiters arrive bare-chested, their faces painted in bone and coal, you're already standing at attention. The serpent nods. He's known all along. Your new life is beginning. The first thing they do is shave your head completely. Not just the front this time. All of it. The novice patch you once wore is gone, replaced by a smooth, vulnerable scalp smeared with ochre and chalk. They say it helps you hear the gods better. You suspect it's also to keep you humble nothing strips. A teenager of arrogance faster than looking like a plucked yam. Your robes are taken too. In their place you're handed a rough tunic the color of tree bark, a belt of woven reeds, and a jaguar tooth pendant on a leather string. You're no longer just a temple novice. You're now a Kuhahaselitl in training, a jaguar priest initiate. And it's time to bleed. Again. But this time, it's different. You're not poking yourself with tiny slivers anymore. Now you're slicing thin cuts across your chest, your thighs, the tops of your feet. Nothing deep enough to kill, just enough to sting, to remind you that your body is not entirely your own. Blood pools into obsidian bowls shaped like open mouths. You chant as it flows, syllables of Nahuatl so old even your instructors hesitate over their pronunciation. You feel lightheaded, exhilarated, terrified. That's the point. Each cut is a key. Each drop unlocks something buried deeper inside you. Soon, you learn how to run while fasting, how to speak the names of the gods without moving your lips, how to balance a bowl of burning incense on your head while walking up 200 steps without stumbling. Spoiler, you stumble anyway, twice. The second time you set your own foot on fire. The priest instructor laughs so hard he almost drops his bowl. That's your first real laugh in weeks. You're thankful for it. Your body changes. You're fed more now, slightly. Not out of kindness, but necessity. You need muscle for what's coming. You eat tamales filled with squash and amaranth, drink thick atole, and occasionally get a mouthful of pulque, the milky alcoholic drink made from fermented agave. It tastes like sweet, fizzy pond water. You pretend to love it anyway. Soon, your mornings begin with wrestling. Yes, Wrestling Dot in a circle of packed dirt behind the temple, you and the other jaguar initiates grapple shirtless under the watchful eyes of your teachers. The rules are simple. Pin your opponent, don't get your face smashed into a cactus, and don't lose your temper. Jaguar priests must be fierce, but never uncontrolled. Your favorite opponent is a boy named Itataka. He's broader than you and almost certainly stronger, but you're quicker and sneakier. He grins when you fight and whispers jokes between grunts. If I die in battle, he says once while pinning you, you can have my sandals. You respond by biting his ankle. The days are harsh, but the nights are stranger. You begin vision training. You drink bitter infusions brewed from the morning glory plant or chew on tiny black seeds mixed with cacao. You're told these help soften the veil. You're not sure what veil they mean until one night when it happens. You're kneeling in a circle of flame, head bowed, breathing slowly. A drumbeat pulses behind you, and then the ground tilts, the fire glows green. The stars begin to pulse like heartbeats. You look down and see fur covering your arms. You hear your own voice growl, deep and slow. You stand and your shadow has claws. For a moment, only a moment, you feel like you are a jaguar, not wearing a costume, not imagining, but being. A wild, muscular creature of night, stalking through the jungle of your own mind. You wake up in your straw mat, soaked in sweat, clutching a bird skull. No idea how it got there, that the instructors say nothing. They only nod. You walk the edge of the mirror, one murmurs, still. You begin to fear Sleep Dot. Sometimes the visions linger too long. Sometimes the gods whisper and won't stop. Sometimes you wake up whispering names of people you've never met. One night you weep without knowing why. The next you laugh during a funeral rite and get smacked in the back of the head for it. Your body learns discipline. Your mind learns flexibility. And your spirit learns something else entirely. During a full moon, you're taken to the jungle, outskirts beyond the city. You think it's a field trip. You're wrong. It's your first solo fast. For 3 days, you stay alone in a woven grass shelter with nothing but a small drum, a clay jaguar mask, and a gourd of river water. You chant, you meditate, you listen Dot at night. You hear animals, a scream that might be a fox or a spirit. You clutch the mask and pray, not for safety, but for clarity. You want to understand. You want to belong. On the second night, you dream of a stone stairway that leads nowhere. On the third, you don't sleep at all. Dot, when your teachers return, you're silent. You don't tell them what you saw. You don't need to. They can tell from the look in your eyes, the small tilt of your chin, the steadiness of your breath. One of them ties a new knot in your reed belt. Another hands you a strip of jaguar fur. You've earned it, but there's one final test before you can move up. Your first battlefield prayer. You're not sent to war, yet not really. But you're brought to the field training ground outside the city, where warriors spar with obsidian-bladed mechaweetle. Your job? Stand in the middle of a circle of fighters, recite a blessing for the day's battle rites, and not flinch as they crash past you. Spoiler, you flinch Dot once, and you grit your teeth. Raise your chin and speak the words clearly as blood flies across the dirt beside you. That night, as you wash crimson dust from your arms, you realize something odd. You liked it. Not the violence, not the sound of bone hitting stone, but the clarity, the stillness of your thoughts when everything around you is chaos. You wonder if that's what the jaguar gods feel when they hunt. Your feet ache as you climb the wet stone steps again, hands full of heavy clay jars that slosh with thick blue water and crushed jade. The temple is slick today. Rain has coated every surface in a slippery sheen, and the humidity clings to your skin like a damp animal pelt. You've slipped 3 times already, and you're trying not to make it 4, because today is not about you. Today is Talos Day. The rain god's shrine sits at the northern temple corner, wreathed in cloud-colored smoke and decorated with frogs carved from volcanic glass. Their wide eyes reflect the stormy sky. You've come to assist in the sacred offerings. Not war, not vision quests, not bloodletting. Today is about weather, water, crops, life dot and frogs. So many frogs you place your jars carefully at the altar base while older priests chant to the rhythm of hollow turtle drums. Their voices rise and fall like distant thunder. You begin laying out the offerings, blue feathers, maize cobs, woven reed bundles, and live frogs tied gently with magway fiber. You whisper to the frogs as you set them down, apologizing softly. You're not sure they understand, but the act comforts you. When the priest gestures, you step forward to add incense to the fire. Copal and resin melt with a soft hiss, releasing curls of pale smoke. You take the wind's direction into account. If it blows east, the gods are listening. If it curls downward, someone here is impure. Today it lifts straight up. You exhale in relief. Rain is coming. Your next task: scatter flower petals and place tiny jade chips in a sacred basin shaped like a wide-eyed toad. The jade chips must land face up. If too many flip, it's a bad omen. You drop them one by one, holding your breath. Most land as they should. One rolls onto its side. You glance at the high priest. He raises an eyebrow, but says nothing. You'll fast tomorrow, just in case. Tending to Talok's rituals is messy. During the longer ceremonies, you wade ankle-deep through temple basins filled with ceremonial mud and offer up rainwater collected in bone flutes. It's a tactile job. You smell like wet bark most days, and your fingernails are always stained green with moss or blue dye. But it's also one of the few places in the priesthood where laughter isn't forbidden. Once, while preparing ceremonial frog charms, you and Aichitaka spend an hour trying to tie tiny cloaks around them made of corn husks. A visiting elder walks in and stares at you. You expect a reprimand. Instead, he just nods and says even frogs deserve dignity. Then he leaves. You both burst out laughing and nearly drop a frog. In the fire pit, there's a gentle rhythm to this part of your life. Rise before the sun, greet the gods with open arms, and whisper blessings into jars of spring water. You trace glyphs in rice flour and paint new ones on damp stone using brushes made from rabbit fur. Your days are filled with sacred math, calendars, chants, and clouds. But even here, something darker lingers. You start noticing the children, not temple novices like you, but younger. Quiet, wide-eyed boys and girls who arrive with their parents and leave in silence, sometimes wrapped in flower garlands. You're told they're rain-bringers, chosen for their innocence. Their tears, when they cry, are said to summon storms. You don't see what happens inside the main shrine. You're not yet allowed, but you hear stories, you hear screams, and one evening you help carry a blanket-wrapped bundle down the temple. Stairs, it's light, too light, you don't ask questions. But you can't sleep that night, and the next morning you scrub the incense bowls harder than usual, like they might absolve you. Historians still argue whether the tears were genuine, whether the children understood what was happening, whether they believed they were going to become rain. You wish you knew the answer, and then, during one ceremony, something happens. You're standing beside the main fire basin, helping light the incense for the high chant. A woman approaches, clutching her daughter's hand. The girl can't be more than 5. The mother is sobbing. The girl is not. She looks straight at you and smiles. She leans forward, pats your wrist, and whispers, "Don't be scared. It doesn't hurt if you believe." You freeze. The world narrows. The sky, the crowd, the fire all melt into the girl's face. She's glowing. You don't mean metaphorically. For one moment, she's literally glowing like moonlight wrapped in skin. Then it's gone. She's led away, and you're left holding a torch that has gone cold. You speak of it to no one, but something inside you shifts. You begin to approach your duties differently. You pour water slowly now, listening to its voice. You scatter petals with intention, speaking to each one. You start composing your own prayers in the quiet hours before dawn. Not the ones written on codices, just yours. My blood is yours. My breath is yours, but my eyes are mine. You're still young, still learning, but you've touched something. One rainy evening, while sweeping petals off the western shrine, you hear a voice behind you. It's the serpent. You've seen it, haven't you? He asks. You don't reply. He nods anyway. It's not power, he says. It's weight, and it never leaves you. You don't know what to say. So you say nothing. He walks away. That night, you kneel under a leaking roof and pray to Talok not for rain, but for understanding. You don't get an answer, but in the morning the wind shifts. You wake to the sound of drums, not the slow, measured temple drums you're used to, the gentle heartbeat of ritual. No, these are sharp, fast, urgent. You sit up before your eyes are, fully open, instinct pulling your hands to your jaguar pendant. Something's happening. You throw on your tunic and sprint barefoot through the temple corridors, nearly colliding with a priest holding a bowl of burning sage. Outside, the main plaza is already stirring. Warriors with painted faces and feathered. Cloaks line the edge of the courtyard. Smoke hangs low in the air, and in the center, under a fluttering banner shaped like a serpent's tongue, stands a group of boys about your age. They've all been chosen Ku Haho Selatle candidates, Jaguar Path initiates. And one of them is you. This is the day you've been preparing for, the first rite of the Jaguar Path. The beginning of your transformation. You're handed a jaguar skin mantle coarse and warm from being worn by many others before you, and your arms are painted with streaks of black ink, not with a brush, but with a reed dipped in ash and dragged directly across your skin. The priest who paints you doesn't speak. His hands are cold. Your face is marked last, 2 sharp dots over the brow, and 1 long stripe down the nose. You're told it mimics a jaguar's sacred vision, 3 points of sight. Heaven, earth, and death. HTACA stands next to you. His mouth is twitching, like he's trying not to laugh. You look like a stepped-on pineapple, he mutters. You smile, barely dot, and the high priest steps forward and begins the invocation. You kneel, surrounded by smoke and feathers and the scent of wet stone, and listen as he calls on Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror god, patron of warriors and fate. His voice echoes off the plaza walls, twisting the Nahuatl words into something deeper than language. You feel the shift in the air. The gods are listening. And then you rise and follow the others up the pyramid steps. Each one of you takes your place before a large carved stone. On top of each stone is a pile of obsidian shards, a woven cloak, and a small bowl of chili-spiced water. You know what's coming. You've been told. But that doesn't make it easier. First comes the tamacle, the sweat house. You're led into a low, domed hut where steam fills every breath. The door is sealed and red-hot stones glow in the center, hissing under drips of sacred water. You kneel, soaked in sweat within minutes. One of the older Jaguar Priests walks among you, whispering chants into your ears. You can barely hear him through the thrum of your own heartbeat. You begin to feel dizzy. Light-headed dot images flicker behind your eyes. Claws, jungle, fire, a spinning star that seems to be watching you. Then cool air. You're dragged outside. By the elbows, blinking against the sudden brightness. Your chest heaves. Your vision swims. Someone presses a bowl to your lips. You drink the chili water. It burns like a second sun in your throat. Then the obsidian. Each of you is handed a shard. Thin, fragile-looking, deadly. The priest instructs you to cut across your shoulder. Shallow, but real. A sign of passage. You hesitate only a breath before, dragging the blade through skin. Pain blossoms in a white-hot line. Blood runs, you don't flinch. You don't cry, you feel powerful. The cloak is draped over your shoulders. It still smells like smoke and old sweat. You don't care. You stand tall as the others receive theirs. Then, all at once, the drums shift, dot, boom, 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 and you begin to move, not just walk, but prowl. You and the others move in a slow circle around the pyramid base, low to the ground, arms wide, steps measured. You're mimicking the jaguar, its silent strength, its patience, its stillness before the pounce. Elders watch from the balconies. The people chant. You feel eyes on you from every angle, including the sky. A priest steps into your path, and priest steps into your path, and holds out a painted shield. You don't think you react. You roar. Yes. You roar a sound pulled from somewhere deeper than lungs. It rips from your throat and fills the space around you. And before you know what's happening, you've slammed the shield aside with both hands and leapt into the air. When you land, everyone is silent. Then someone begins to drum again, soft, slow, steady. The others join. You're in. That night, as you sit beneath the temple awnings, your legs shaking with exhaustion, an older priest hands you a bowl of rabbit stew and sits beside you. He doesn't speak at first, between spoonfuls. He mutters, "You've seen the edge of yourself now. From here on out, you either sharpen it or fall." You don't know what to say, so you nod and keep eating. In the weeks that follow, you begin training with weapons. The maca weedle is your primary tool, a wooden club lined with obsidian blades, sharp enough to sever a head, and 2 clean swings. It's heavier than you expect. At first, you keep hitting the wrong target or yourself. Aichtaka is a natural. You're not. But you learn, you begin to move with the weapon, not against it. You understand the weight of it, how it hums when you swing it right. You practice in sand pits with straw dummies, each one painted with the symbol of a different god. Your instructors tell you which one to strike, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes blindfolded to do it. It's not just combat. You learn chants for battle, spells whispered through gritted teeth, songs to distract enemies, curses hidden in lullabies. You learn how to kill, yes, but also how to confuse, unsettle, break the spirit before the body. You're being shaped dot by stone, by sweat, by silence, and one day the serpent finds you again. He kneels beside you after a sparring match and says, "A jaguar kills clean. A priest heals the wound. You must be both." Then he walks away before you can ask how you spend the night wide awake, staring at the moon and wondering if the gods ever sleep. The world has gone quiet. You lie flat on your back, half buried in leaves, somewhere beyond the outer temples. The jungle breathes slowly around you, deep inhalations of wind and distant bird calls, exhalations of insects buzzing under the ferns. You are not hiding. You are listening. And waiting dot, this is your first vision quest as a fully inducted Jaguar Priest initiate. No firelight, no guides, no ceremonial robes. Just you, your breath, and a pouch of herbs that taste like ground bark and spoiled honey. You took them 2 hours ago, and now your mouth is numb, your arms are tingling, and your thoughts are beginning to melt dot somewhere above you. The stars blink dot, and the mirror opens. Tezcatlipoca. The smoking mirror god is not a gentle deity, is the trickster, the judge, the whisperer in the shadows, patron of rulers and ruin. When you pray to him, you do not ask for mercy, you ask for clarity. Your pulse slows, and suddenly you are not lying in leaves anymore. You're falling straight down through a shaft of silver, light into a place that smells like obsidian and blood. You land, if you can call it that, on a flat, dark surface that reflects your image perfectly. Except it's not you. Not exactly. The reflection shifts, twists. One moment you're you. The next, you're wearing a jaguar's face. Then a skull. Then your own again, but older, scarred, tired dot. The mirror speaks. Not in words, but in pulls. Memories surface. Doubts, visions. Dot, you see yourself standing on a battlefield, blood dripping from your hands. You see a child crying in the temple courtyard while the rain falls dot. You see your mother, old and hunched, staring at a fire that never warms her. You try to speak, but your mouth fills with ash dot. The god doesn't offer answers. He only shows you paths and then leaves you to stumble through them. When you wake, your face is pressed into dirt, and your mouth tastes like iron. You've been crying, or laughing, you can't tell. Your tunic is missing, so is your pouch. You clutch your jaguar pendant and realize you're holding it so tight it's cut into your palm. You whisper, "Thank you." It feels right, even though you're not sure what just happened. You return to the temple at dawn. You're silent for 3 days afterward, not by vow, just processing. The others don't ask. Everyone in the Jaguar path has faced the mirror. Some emerge stronger, some emerge quieter, If you don't emerge at all, you start noticing things more clearly now. When someone lies, their eye twitches just slightly. When a priest is hiding emotion, he breathes through his nose. When a fire is burning dirty, it smells like bone. These aren't lessons, they're knowings, and they seem to arrive all on their own. You're beginning to feel what it means to see with more than eyes, and you're not alone. Each Taka begins having visions too. He's quieter these days, and the jokes come less often. You sit together, sometimes in silence, watching clouds roll over the mountain peaks, saying nothing. Once, during a shared prayer before a moonrite, he reaches over and grips your forearm so tightly you wince. "I saw myself dying," he says, "and it felt like home." You don't know what to do with that. The rituals deepen. Now you're leading chants, not just participating. You learn the pacing of sacred words, how to modulate your tone to stir the air, how to time a pause just right so the silence becomes part of the prayer. It's like playing an instrument no one else can see. You also learn how to sing to the bones. During funerary rites, you are taught to tap gently on the skull with a thin stick, whispering the soul's name and its birthday sign. This is to keep it from forgetting who it was. You don't know if it works, but the moment is always solemn, and afterward there's often rain. Sometimes in those rites, you feel as though something is watching through the eyes of the skull. There are whispers now, not from spirits, but from the temple priests. Some believe a new war is coming. Others say the signs are confused. The Tanaupahooli calendar has shown strange combinations lately. Death paired with joy, night paired with maize. It makes no sense, and it makes everyone uneasy. You're sent to assist the scribes in interpreting them. It's painstaking work scraping bark paper, painting glyphs, debating meanings with elders who seem one sneeze away from turning to dust. But it's also rewarding. You begin to see how the cycles connect, how one eclipse might foreshadow another 40 years from now, how the gods weave themselves into time like threads in a tapestry you can only glimpse sideways. And amid all this, you're still being shaped. During combat training one morning, you block a strike you couldn't have seen with your eyes. It's instinct now, or fate. One of the older priests watches you for a long time afterward. Then he says your heart is beginning to listen. That night, you return to your sleeping mat and find a strip of jaguar fur stitched with turquoise beads folded neatly on top. It's a sign. You've passed another threshold, but the gods aren't done with you yet. Your dreams start. Turning darker. Now, instead of visions of animals or stars, you dream of fire. Cities burning, stone pyramids crumbling into water. Faces. You know, teachers, friends, even your parents melting like wax under a sun that screams. You wake up shaking, sweating, heart pounding. One night, the serpent finds you in the courtyard before dawn. You're dreaming of endings, he says. You nod. It means you're seeing further now. But remember, clarity without kindness is cruelty. You think about that for a long time. That evening, you go to the frog shrine and leave a feather for the child who once smiled at you. You don't pray. You just sit there, listening, waiting for the mirror to show itself again. The air tonight is still and damp, heavy with the scent of crushed marigold and old blood. You stand at the summit of the Great Pyramid. the Huey Teocalli, wearing the jaguar cloak in full for the first time. It drapes over your shoulders, the fur rough against your bare skin, and the spotted hood hangs back for now, as tradition dictates. You're barefoot, kneeling, arms stretched wide as the moonlight slants across the polished stone altar. Tonight, you undergo full initiation. No one tells you what exactly will happen, only that when you descend these steps again, you will no longer be a boy. You already know pain. You already know ritual. But this will be different. The high priest stands behind you, holding a blade of polished obsidian, so sharp it looks like liquid shadow. He murmurs words in Nahuatl you've heard before but never truly understood not. Until now, his voice doesn't echo. It sinks like water soaking into dry earth. He speaks of Tezcatlipoca's heart, stolen and returned. He speaks of jaguars born from starlight and blood. He speaks of you. And then, without warning, he strikes. The blade doesn't pierce your heart, not literally, though for a split second, your body isn't so sure. It slices across your chest, over the sternum, a cut deeper than the others you've received in training. You gasp not in pain, but in surprise. The blood comes fast, hot. A live dot it splashes into a carved channel in the altar, where it mingles with flower petals and crushed cochineal dye. You do not flinch. You stay still as the priest paints your face in your own blood. One line down the nose, one across each cheekbone. A jaguar's markings, a priest's sacrifice. The ceremony moves on around you. Drums pulse from below. Incense drifts upward in looping spirals. Other initiates kneel nearby, receiving their own cuts, their own transformation. You're barely aware of them. You're somewhere else now, somewhere in between. Your vision swims slightly. Whether from blood loss or the god's attention, you're not sure. The high priest places something cold and heavy in your hand, a jade carving in the shape of a jaguar's claw. You clutch it until it leaves an imprint in your palm. Then you hear it, a roar, not from below, not from any human throat. It echoes from inside the stone or the sky, or maybe your own chest. Deep, guttural, ancient dot, you bow your head and whisper, I hear you. When the ceremony ends, you descend the steps slowly, supported by two older priests. Your chest is bandaged. Your legs tremble. But inside, you are calm. You dream that night of running on 4 legs, not 2. Through jungle, past trees that bend in deference, over rivers that steam with mist, you feel no fear. Only purpose. You wake before dawn. And you smile. You are now a jaguar priest. The following days pass in a blur. You are given new tasks, new garments, a new sleeping place, closer to the temple's inner sanctum. You walk the corridors others are not permitted to enter. You see scrolls few are allowed to read. You join the inner circle for high rituals. You also begin your duties with the Texiptla, the living embodiments of the gods. These are captives chosen to become sacred stand-ins for deities, clothed and treated as divine until the day of their sacrifice. You are assigned care for one such man, a former noble from a conquered city. His name is omitted in the records. To you, he is simply Tezcatlipoca. You feed him, you chant over him. You paint his face each morning and bathe his feet. Each night, he is quiet, observant, kind. You expect resistance. There is none. He embraces the role. Some say the gods possess these stand-ins, that their minds are transformed. You're not sure, but when he speaks, his words are thoughtful, otherworldly. Are you afraid of dying? You ask once, softly, while braiding a feathered armband for him. He smiles. No, just of being forgotten. His answer settles into your bones as the date of his offering draws closer. The temple becomes busier. Cleaners scrub the altars with lemon water and river sand. Priests rehearse chants. Musicians prepare flutes carved from human bone. You help direct the preparations, silent and focused. The night before the sacrifice, Tezcatlipoca asks for music. You find a boy who plays the turtle drum and another who sings old moon songs. You sit nearby, watching the firelight flicker across his face. He looks peaceful. When he's led away the next morning, he walks on his own, tall and unshaking. You do not cry, but you feel a piece of yourself settle into silence. Historians still argue whether the Tezcatlipoca truly believed they became gods, or whether the months of reverence masked their terror. You're not sure either, but you do know this. When they went to the altar, they walked like kings. You are changed by the experience. You take your duties more seriously. You correct mistakes with a soft word instead of a bark. You begin writing prayers of your own elegant, looping glyphs that speak of quiet strength and hidden truth. Other priests begin to quote you. The serpent approaches you one evening. You've taken your shape, he says. Now let's see what shadows it casts. You nod. He smiles. That's priest speak, for you're ready for more responsibility. Of course it is. And just like that, you begin shadowing your first full ceremonies, not as a novice, but as a true officiant. You lead chants. You hold the obsidian. You speak the final words. You are calm even when others tremble, even when you tremble inside. One evening, during a storm rite, lightning strikes the far side of the temple plaza mid-prayer. Everyone flinches. You don't. You finish the prayer, voice steady, eyes on the fire. Afterward, each taka claps you on the shoulder. Did you not see that bolt? You shrug. Maybe the gods wanted to add some flair. He laughs, but later that night you wonder if it was a sign. It's a warm morning, and the scent of ground maize fills the air. You're seated beneath a stone archway in the southern courtyard, gently fanning a young man with a woven palm frond. His wrists are bound loosely. His tunic is clean. He's resting his head against the wall, eyes closed, breathing slowly. He's going to die in 3 days. His name is Nenatal. He's from a far-off province, captured during a flower war. Strong, quiet, around your age. He hasn't tried to escape. He hasn't shouted or begged. In fact, he seems strangely peaceful, as though he already knows his place in the great. Story of things, and it's your job to take care of him until then. You bring him food, thick gruel made with honey and toasted amaranth. You help him bathe in the temple stream. You change his bandages when he cuts his foot on the stone steps. You even sit and listen when he asks questions about the gods. Is it true that when I die, the gods will drink my soul like cacao? He asks one afternoon. You think for a moment. No, you reply. They'll plant it. You'll become something new. He smiles faintly. I hope it's a jaguar. You both chuckle. You're not supposed to laugh with them. Not supposed to speak gently or ask about their lives, but you do. because you see it now how these sacrifices are not just ceremonies, they are transitions. And your role is not simply to prepare a body, it's to ease a soul. Your favorite moment is always just after sunset. Each evening, you sit together and recite short riddles and poems, many of which you remember from your novice days. Nenatal seems to like the ones about stars. His favorite line, "The sky is a bowl, and each star is a jaguar's eye watching." Sometimes he repeats it before bed, like a charm. You don't tell anyone that he gave you his bead necklace on the second night, or that you've started wearing it under your robes. The day before the ceremony, you accompany him to the top of the pyramid, not for the rite, but for the view. It's permitted. You both stand silently for a long while, gazing over the city. He points out the gardens near the aqueduct, where he says the flowers bloom differently every season. You smile and pretend you didn't already know that dot as you turn to go. He says, "I'm not afraid." You nod, but you also look away, because you are dot not of death, of forgetting, of how many names like his will pass through your life, how many souls you'll carry, how many you'll have to let go. That night, you don't sleep. Instead, you sit cross-legged on the floor of the temple's scriptorium, writing his name into your private codex. Not the public scrolls, the secret one you've kept since childhood, where you've recorded each frog, each prayer, each strange dream. You write. Nenatal, who smiled at the sky dot in the morning. The plaza is packed. Dot the sun rises directly behind the temple's tallest spire, casting long shadows across the blood-washed steps. Drums thunder. Incense curls in tight, frantic spirals. You feel the pressure in your chest build like water behind a dam, but you keep your expression neutral. Nenatal is led up the steps by 2 guards. He walks with dignity, no struggle, no panic, just that same soft smile. He catches your eye just once as he passes. You mouth the riddle. The sky is a bowl. He finishes it with his eyes, and each star is a jaguar's eye. The rite proceeds exactly as it should. You do not look away. You never do. But that night, after all is quiet, you return to the pyramid alone. You kneel at the altar, scrub it clean by the temple attendants, and place a single white flower where he lay. You whisper a song under your breath, just for him. Then you walk down the steps with your head high. A week later, you're assigned 3 more captives. Dot, it becomes a rhythm. You learn their names, their fears, their memories. You hum lullabies as you clean their wounds. You soothe their anxiety with riddles about frogs and moons and maize that talks. Not all are like Nenatal. Some cry, some resist, some curse your name and the gods in the same breath. You do not judge them, because you don't see yourself as a butcher. You are a bridge, and bridges must touch both sides. One morning, you help a woman dress in ceremonial ribbons for her day of offering. She's older than most, a mother. Her hands are calloused, her eyes tired. Dot, she asks, "Will the gods take care of my children?" You answer honestly, "I don't know." She studies you for a moment, then nods. "Tell them I was not angry." She says you write that line in your codex too. Some of the other priests avoid this work. It's too intimate, too heavy, too gray. They prefer chants and incense and glorious firelit ceremonies. You don't blame them, but you stay. because you know now that this is the true weight of your path, not glory, not power, but presence. And you begin to sense when someone will go quietly or not. You can see it in their posture, hear it in their breath. One boy refuses food for 3 days. You sing to him. He finally eats. Another girl asks to paint her own face. You bring her pigment. You never forget their names. Never let them disappear into ritual. Historians still argue about this role, whether priests like you were cold facilitators of a violent tradition or compassionate caretakers doing the only thing they knew how. You think both are true, and neither. Because in those final moments, when a captive whispers a prayer into your ear, or presses their hand over your heart, or simply closes their eyes with trust, the gods aren't the only ones watching. You are too, and you will remember. Always. You wipe the blood from your hands with a strip of cotton and rise slowly from the altar, your knees cracking louder than you'd like to admit. It's been a long day. 2 sacrifices, 1 fire ceremony, and a rain blessing that lasted so long. Your fingers are still pruning from holding the offering jars. Your muscles ache. Your mind hums with chants you can't turn off. Your sandals are damp with something you hope is only ceremonial water. But you're not done yet, because this afternoon you've been summoned to a warrior council. A rare invitation for a priest, rarer still for one your age. You duck through the narrow door beneath the west shrine and enter the stone hall where the Q-Hoopapilton, the eagle, and jaguar warriors gather. The air smells of sweat, roasted cacao, and sharp obsidian oil. They nod as you enter, eyes painted like suns and birds of prey. You sit cross-legged on the mat they provide, your jaguar cloak folded neatly beside you. The commander, a wide-shouldered man with a voice like falling rocks, begins to speak. He outlines a new campaign, another Xiuju, or flower war. Ritual warfare meant not to conquer, but to capture. Your ears prick up. Each warrior must return with at least 1 captive, the commander says, or not return at all. Silence. Then, turning to you, he adds, and this time the priests will fight beside us. Wait, what? You blink. Not all, he clarifies. Just those on the jaguar path. Right. That includes you. This is new. You've trained for battle, yes. You've swung the makua weedle, dodged spears, even practiced defensive magic. But standing beside warriors on an actual field, hearing real bone crunch, that's not the same. Still, you nod. Because this is part of the path. Because you don't flinch anymore. Because the gods are always watching. The next few days are a blur of preparation. You oil your club, inspect your shield, and whisper the sun prayer over your boots. You eat more thick, hot tamales and pulque that makes your tongue go fuzzy. You chant in the evenings with the other jaguar priests, wrapping twine around your fingers in symbolic knots, 1 for breath, 1 for strength, 1 for vision. On the morning of departure, your mother appears at the temple gate. She's older now, worn by time but sharp-eyed. She touches your shoulder. I heard you're marching. You nod. She presses a small, jagged stone into your palm. This was your grandfather's. From the first war he survived. It's ugly. It's lucky. Keep it. You squeeze her hand. You don't cry. You march out with the warriors at dawn. The drums echo across the valley. Dust kicks up in waves. Your jaguar mask rests on the top of your head for now, and your club feels heavy in your palm. The procession stretches for miles. Priests, soldiers, attendants, even scribes. Flags whip in the wind, and children run alongside, shouting chants you know by heart. The journey is slow. You sleep in reed shelters, bathe in shallow rivers, and pray beneath moonlight that seems colder than it should be. You watch the warriors train at dusk, hear the crunch of sand underfoot, the hiss of obsidian through air. When you finally reach the battlefield, the sky is gray. The enemy arrives in silence, another Nehua city-state, one of the old rivals. These wars are not born of hate, but of tradition, of necessity, of offering. You do not charge. You chant. Your voice rises with the others in a low, rumbling hymn meant to open the way between worlds. You grip your obsidian club and try to ignore how slick your hands have become. Then the drums shift. Boom, 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 boom. The warriors charge. You do not run. Not yet. Instead, you walk slowly onto the field. Behind the first wave, eyes wide, lips moving. You're there to support, to defend, to disorient. You call on Tezcatlipoca with every breath. You speak words meant to cloud the mind, to shake the spirit. And then you see him. An enemy warrior, young, unpainted, fierce-eyed. He rushes at you. Instinct takes over. You block with your shield, stumble sideways, swing wide, and your club connects. Not with his head, his shoulder. Hard. He falls, groaning, not dead. You stand over him, breathing hard. He looks up at you, eyes full of pain but not fear. You lower your weapon. You call 2 warriors to bind him. He's taken. Alive, you've done your part. Later, by the fireside, each Taka claps you on the back. You didn't flinch. He says. You nod, chewing slowly on a piece of roasted squash. I almost did. He laughs. We all almost do. That night you sleep under the stars, your jaguar cloak wrapped around your shoulders. The stone your mother gave you rests under your chin. You dream of jaguars, yes, but also of your captive. He's just a boy. You wonder what his name is. You return to the city with 5 captives. You walk beside the warriors, but you don't celebrate like they do. You keep your gaze ahead, your thoughts inward. The people cheer, flowers rain down. Your mother waits at the temple gate again. You hand her the lucky stone. She doesn't say anything, just folds your hand in hers. Later, you help tend to the captives. You're gentle. You feed them yourself, one of them your own. Thanks you. You don't tell anyone, but you write his name in your codex. Historians still debate the true nature of flower wars, whether they were sacred ceremonies, population control, or political theater. You now know the truth isn't simple, because it wasn't hate that led you to strike him. It was rhythm, ritual, the long drum beat of a world you didn't build, but live inside. And that world still needs jaguar priests, even those who tremble when they pray. Smoke clings to your jaguar cloak like an old memory. It's festival season again, the month of Toxcatl, when the city pulses with fire, flowers, and endless ceremony. You haven't slept properly in days. No one has. The drums beat before dawn and keep going long after sunset. The air smells like roasted maize, hot wax, and dried marigold garlands. Children run barefoot across the plaza, faces painted like gods, while merchants shout over each other near the edges of the temple square. But You? You're carrying a basket of frogs, real ones, fat and squirming, tied loosely with reed twine, blinking in bewilderment. Their purpose is sacred offerings for the rain gods in the coming Tlacaxipia and Listli rites. It's hard to look serious when one of them croaks every few steps and tries to leap for freedom. You sigh. This is my life now. You mutter. Each taka who's walking beside you with a clay pot full of roasted grasshoppers chuckles. At least you're not on dung duty. He's not joking. Somewhere across the square, junior novices are smearing crocodile excrement on the ceremonial idol. For fertility, of course. You're not entirely sure how that works. You're not sure anyone is. You deliver the frogs to the rain shrine, trying not to trip on your own robes. The priests there receive them with solemn nods, and immediately start arranging them into a spiral on the wet stone floor. They'll be sprinkled with blue powder, sung to, and eventually released into a sacred spring unless one jumps away early, which happens a lot. Festival rituals are equal parts divine choreography and chaotic improvisation. You've learned to expect anything. Last year, a wind god impersonator passed out mid-ritual because his feather headdress was too heavy. The year before that, a jaguar escaped its cage during a mock hunt reenactment and bit a scribe in the leg. The scribe now limps proudly and tells the story to anyone who will listen. And the feasts, the feasts that you spend hours helping prepare. Offerings, steaming tamales wrapped in banana leaves, cacao drinks spiced with chili and vanilla, platters of roasted fish covered in maguey syrup. You chant over them, bless them. Then you sneak bites when no one's looking. Everyone does. It's tradition, but not all of it is light-hearted. Some of the festival rites are bloody. Some are intense. The Tlacaxipeyalistle, in particular, includes the flaying of sacrificial victims' ritual skinning that honors Zeb Totek, the flayed god. You're not asked to participate in the actual rite yet, but you assist in the preparation. You help bind the sacred ropes. You whisper the cleansing prayers, and afterward, you help dress the living Ixiptala priests who don the skins of the dead for several days. You fold the garments carefully. You lower your eyes. You breathe through your mouth. You don't flinch. Any more mostly historians still argue whether the practice was symbolic, medicinal, or meant to invoke agricultural renewal. Maybe all three. You only know that it makes people cry quietly when no one's watching. You keep watch during the night. Vigils. You light candles, chant softly, walk slow circles around the central plaza. You carry bundles of dried sage and copal, offering smoke to the gods of wind and stars. Sometimes old women press tokens into your hand flowers, beads, bits of carved bone asking for prayers for sons or harvests or healing. You keep every single one. You tuck them in your sleeping mat or pin them inside your cloak. Tiny burdens you're strangely grateful for, because they remind you that you're not just here for the grand rituals. You're here for the quiet ones, like the single mother who kneels outside the temple and sings lullabies to a clay statue of Chalki-Utlik, goddess of lakes, or the half-blind scribe who paints glyphs with trembling hands while reciting poems to his dead wife, or the boy who came to you last week asking, "Does my dog get to go to the afterlife too?" You told him, yes, of course you did, because it felt true in that moment, And if you've learned anything, it's that truth is not always something you can prove. Sometimes it's just something that makes your chest ache a little when you speak it aloud. You begin composing your own songs during the festival nights, not the long chants, not the high priest hymns, just quiet melodies you hum while walking. Between shrines, you sing of moonlight on whetstone, of frogs that whisper secrets, of jaguars that walk through dreams. HTACA hears you once and says, "You should teach that to the novices." You shake your head, they'd fall asleep. "Exactly," he grins. Best kind of prayer. On the 5th day of the festival, you're asked to bless the dancers. You kneel before them, arms outstretched, as they circle the courtyard in shimmering cloaks and body paint that glows under torchlight. You speak a simple blessing, 5 words only, but it echoes across the plaza like thunder. Your voice is stronger. Now, you barely recognize it. The high priest nods from the shadows. Approval, or maybe relief. You've stepped into your role fully. But festivals also bring memories and ghosts. You see Ninel's face among the crowd for a split second, smiling, or maybe it was someone else. You feel a soft pressure on your chest where the bead necklace used to rest until you gave it to a weeping captive last month who couldn't stop shaking. You wonder if it's in the afterlife now, or tied to someone else's story. You're starting to understand that priesthood isn't just about knowing the rituals. It's about holding them gently in your hands, even when they burn, even when they slip through your fingers like smoke, even when they leave you standing in a courtyard full of frog baskets, whispering sacred jokes under your breath while the stars turn slowly overhead. And somewhere deep inside you begin to wonder what happens when the songs aren't enough. Your robe smells like incense and something suspiciously like spoiled honey. Again, you're crouched in a narrow hallway between temple shrines, holding a bowl of cacao and pretending to meditate while very much not meditating. You're eavesdropping, and you're not even sorry about it, because there's a scandal. It started 3 days ago with the Eclipse Festival. You remember the moment the sky dimmed. The plaza fell silent, and someone dropped a flute in the middle of the ceremony. Embarrassing? Yes, but not unheard of. What was unheard of was what followed. A priest, an older one, respected, solemn, always smelled faintly of tamales, disappeared right after. Poof. Gone. He was supposed to lead the midday ritual. Instead, he vanished between the eclipses, peak and the beginning of the eclipse shadow chant. Just vanished. Left his ceremonial sandals behind. Weird. Now, everyone's whispering. You hear 2 attendants talking near the colonnade. He had dreams, one says. Said he saw ants crawling over the sun, said it meant the gods were eating time. Or maybe he just got tired of all the blood. The other replies, "You sip your cacao thoughtfully and don't move." That's not the only strange thing lately. There's been a quiet tension in the temple halls, rituals being moved around, assignments shifted without explanation. One of the elder priests has started twitching at the sound of thunder, and another has begun fasting on days that don't call for it. You try not to read into it, but you've learned to trust your instincts. And your instincts are whispering, something's off. That afternoon, during a rain blessing, you spot a fellow priest young, always nervous, sneaking a folded scroll into his robe. You raise an eyebrow. He flushes, mumbles something about an inventory list, and bolts. You absolutely follow him. Through the inner corridors, past the frog shrine into the southern wing of the Comicac, where the novice records are kept. He vanishes behind a curtain. You wait. Then you peek, and there it is, a hidden gathering. 4 priests sitting in a circle around a bowl of blackened corn. Not incense, not ritual food, just burnt kernels. You recognize one of the priests as someone who hasn't spoken in public for months. Another has claw marks down one arm. He claims they're from a jaguar vision, but you suspect otherwise. They're whispering fast. Urgently, you catch phrases. Outside the calendar. They said the omens were misread. If it's true, we're not prepared. You slip away before they notice you. Later that evening, you find the serpent on the upper balcony, staring into the horizon. Things are shifting. You say softly. He nods without turning. The calendar's off, he murmurs, by a fraction. But in the sacred cycles, a fraction is a scream. You wait. He doesn't elaborate, so you ask, is that why the priest disappeared? He finally turns. His eyes are tired. More tired than you've ever seen. There are those, he says, who think the gods aren't listening. That we've been dancing in circles for too long. That sacrifice no longer speaks the old tongue. You lean on the railing, the breeze cooling the sweat on your neck. And do you think that? He's quiet for a long time. Then he says, I think the gods are watching to see what we do next. That night, you find a scroll tucked into your sleeping mat. No name. Just a message. When the stars don't align, don't blame the sky. You don't sleep well. The next few days bring more strange events. A small idol in the maze shrine cracks down the middle during a cleansing ritual. A jaguar cub, sacred and raised by the temple, escapes and is found pacing the courtyard with its eyes rolled back. A scroll keeper reports that a month-named glyph has changed shape on its own. You try to keep up your duties. You chant, you lead, you bless, but people are watching you now. Not just novices, senior priests. Their eyes linger longer. Some nod as you pass. Others frown. A few whisper and stop talking when you enter a room. You've become something else. Not just a jaguar priest, but a participant in whatever's coming. One evening, while helping prepare an eclipse divination with the scribes, you're handed a set of jade counting stones. You drop one by accident and it splits. Right down the middle. A bad omen, you pretend it didn't happen. But the next day, a novice runs screaming from the Comicac. Claims he saw his own funeral carved into the temple wall. You accompany him back. There's no such carving. Still, he refuses to enter again. Aichtaka tries to joke it away. Maybe we're all cursed. Maybe the gods are bored. You smile weakly, but you know the difference between fear and performance. And now the fear feels real. The serpent gives you a new assignment. Start attending the boundary rituals, he says. The ones that mark city edges, river crossings, forest lines. Pay attention to what the land is saying. You nod. Then you ask, what if the land doesn't speak? He replies, then listen harder. So you do. You begin waking before the sun, standing barefoot at the edge of bridges and lake shores, offering prayers made of breath and silence. You press your hand to tree trunks, to cold stone, to temple walls at night. You listen, you wait, you Wonder, Dot, because the gods haven't stopped speaking. But maybe they've started whispering in a language no one's translating anymore. The sky is the wrong colored, Dot. It's just after sunrise. But instead of its usual gentle pinks and yellows, the entire horizon glows a deep, bruised purple tinged with green around the edges like the belly of a storm. No one says anything at first, not aloud, but you see it in the way the temple sweepers pause mid-step, the way a priest drops a bowl without noticing, the way birds take off in a frantic wave and don't return. You stand on the pyramid steps, hands clasped, breath held. Read the signs. You've seen them in dreams. And this is not normal, Dot. Not even ritual-normal, Dot. Later that day, a scribe from the western watchtower runs into the temple, out of breath and wide-eyed. Fire in the lake, he says. You all laugh at first, until he swears it. Swears he saw flames dancing across the surface of the water, without smoke or wood, and then comes the hail. Midday, hot sun, no clouds, Dot, and then a sudden downpour of white stones, clattering on the tile roofs like 100 jaguar claws. The novices scream. The elders glance toward the sky. And you? You stand completely still, letting one chunk of ice strike your shoulder, Dot. It hurts. But it also feels like a handshake, Dot, from something old, something waiting. The temple responds with action. You're assigned to fast. Again. 3 days, no food, minimal water, no speaking outside of prayer. You obey, but your hunger feels different this time, Dot. It's not just in your stomach, Dot, it's in the air. And you're not the only one who feels it. One of the older Jaguar priests, silent for most of his life, suddenly begins reciting forgotten hymns in the middle of the night. Not the standard ones, old songs, strange songs, words none of the scribes recognize. He says he dreamed them, says he heard them from the stones. Another priest climbs the eastern pyramid and stays there for 2 full days, staring at the sun without blinking until his eyes go red. The serpent visits you at dusk. You've noticed, he says. You nod. What is it? He doesn't answer directly. He sits beside you instead, pulls a small pouch from his robe, and spills its contents onto the stone. You see bones, Dot, tiny ones. Bird, probably. Maybe bat. He arranges them carefully. The pattern means something. You recognize part of it, but not all. You ever wonder, he says, if we missed something? If the gods wrote us a message in the trees or the wind, and we just weren't paying attention? You nod again, because you've started to think that, too. Then comes the real shift. One morning, a novice runs into the training yard with a bundle of reed scrolls, ones pulled from the very back of the Comicac storage rooms, written generations ago and long sealed, Dot. They contain records of an omen called Olin Lalt Tippak, the Earth's motion, a sign of great upheaval. Not just politically, not just meteorologically, but spiritually. They say the last time it came, the novice pants, entire cities disappeared. You read the scroll, you understand, because you've dreamed this, not the details, but the feeling that everything sacred was about to shift slightly sideways and perhaps not return. Historians today still debate whether the Aztecs truly foresaw catastrophe or simply interpreted natural events through spiritual lenses, whether the omens were real or shaped after the fact. But you, in that moment, Don't doubt it at all, because the jungle is louder than it used to be, because the wind whispers names it shouldn't know, because last night the stars formed a glyph you only ever saw once during a vision quest in your 13th year, and now you realize it means ending, or maybe beginning. Hard to say dot in the temple. The rituals change. Drums beat slower. Incense is burned without prayer. Captives are treated with reverence bordering on awe. You help prepare one a man from the far north, tattooed and unblinking, and as you anoint his forehead, he leans in and whispers, "It's not just your gods who are waking." You feel the hairs on your arms rise. He smiles, then closes his eyes. You start collecting odd things, not sacred objects. Just signs, feathers found in places they shouldn't be. Rocks with holes in the center. Beetle with golden markings that look like a face. You keep them in a pouch. Touch them when the dreams come too strong. One night you wake to the sound of flutes. No one else hears. Another. You find a line of corn kernels perfectly arranged at the foot of your mat. No one claims them. Htaca grows quieter. You sit with him by the fire, neither of you speaking, until finally he says, "I dreamed the temple was empty." Still standing, but empty. No voices, no blood, no gods. You don't know what to say to that. So you offer him roasted squash, and neither of you brings it up again. And still, the signs continue. A priest draws a star map and gasps midway through. "This constellation," he says, "shouldn't be visible for another century." You help a scribe re-ink a calendar stone and find a glyph scratched in the margin. A jaguar with no eyes, mouth open, swallowing a sun. No one knows who drew it. The serpent calls you again. It's time you prepare for the end of the cycle. He says, You try to act calm. You've been expecting this. Still. You swallow hard. And what does that mean? You ask. He looks at you a long time. "It means," he says slowly, "you begin writing your own ending now." And then softer, "Or someone else will write it for you." You return to your sleeping mat that night and open your secret codex. For the first time, you write not about frogs or fire or chants. You write a question. If the gods leave, do we stop being their priests? The ink soaks in slowly. And the answer does not come. You hear about them before you ever see them. Strangers, pale-skinned, men arriving on the coast in floating temples made of wood. They wear metal that shines like sunlight off obsidian and carry thundersticks that spit fire and smoke. They smell of salt and oil and horses. No one's quite sure what they are. Gods? Messengers? Demons? You hear the rumors from merchants first wide-eyed whispering about ships as tall as the temple towers. Then from the fishermen who swear the sea turned black when the strangers arrived. Finally you hear it in the temple itself, in the sacred library where two priests speak low and fast over a cracked map of the eastern coast. They ride deer. One says, "Not deer. Beasts with hooves, covered in cloth. They carry lightning in their hands." You stay silent, but the stone in your stomach grows heavier. You go to the serpent. "Have you seen them?" You ask. He's quiet for a long time, stroking the feathers on his staff. "I saw one," he says at last. From a distance, he looked lost, not just in place but in time. You try to imagine what that means. You can't. Soon, the emperor himself sends word. Watch the skies, check the water, read the omens again. Every priest is assigned to review the old scrolls. You're among them. You work by firelight, flipping through brittle pages that smell of earth and smoke, looking for prophecies you never thought would matter. And then you find it, buried in a chant from 2 centuries ago. When fire walks on water, the sun will speak with another face. You don't know what it means. Not entirely, but it echoes in your bones. Your dreams worsen. You see pyramids crumbling, children weeping ash, the sun bleeding down the sides of the temple like spilled cacao. You wake gasping, covered in sweat, and find your jaguar pendant clenched so tightly in your fist it leaves a bruise. You begin preparing for war, even though no one calls it that. The temple holds emergency rituals, fastings, offerings, prayers, whispered so urgently they begin to lose meaning. You take part in them all, of course, but something inside you whispers, it's not enough. One evening, during a lakeside cleansing rite, you glimpse a distant flash. Not lightning. Something else. A spark from the edge of the world. By now, some of the strangers have entered inland towns. You hear stories of kindness, of gifts exchanged, of awkward ceremonies where no one understood the words, but everyone smiled anyway. And then you hear the darker stories. Of idols torn down. Of diseases spreading like smoke through the lungs of entire villages silenced. The high priest calls a secret gathering. You sit among the elite, elder priests, warrior captains, scribes with fingers stained red from ink and blood. The serpent is there, his eyes darker than you've ever seen. He says only one thing: we've prepared all our lives to speak to gods. Now it's time we speak to men who think they are. The temple begins debating. Should we send an envoy? Should we offer jade, gold, warnings? No one agrees. You're sent to the outskirts, to listen, to watch, to report. You travel with a group of warriors cloaked in simple cotton, your jaguar mask hidden in a satchel. You pass through villages that look the same but feel different. The people speak softly now. Some won't meet your eyes. Others ask if you've seen the white men who bleed smoke. You haven't, not yet. Then one day you do, just one, from a distance. He rides a beast taller than you, wears a breastplate that glints like polished bone, and carries a strange long object with a carved mouth. He doesn't speak, just watches the village below, hand resting on his weapon like it's part of his body. You feel something cold move down your spine. Not fear. Recognition. You return to the city with what you've seen. The serpent listens, unmoving. They are men, you say, but the gods ride with them, or behind them. He doesn't respond. He just closes his eyes. That night, you write again in your codex. We have always known how to face gods, but how do we face strangers? No answer comes, even. The frogs have gone quiet. And the strangest part? The gods do too. Your dreams are blank, your visions a blur of smoke. In silence. You begin fasting again. Voluntarily. You offer obsidian, cuts not required of you. You whisper prayers you used to shout. Still, nothing. It feels like standing in a temple long after the fire has gone out, and hearing footsteps that aren't yours. Hta grows pale. He says he can't sleep. Says he hears names in the wind. Not gods, not people. something in between. You stay awake with him on the temple roof one night. He says, "If they come here, if they stand on this stone, will the gods stop them?" You want to say yes, but you don't, because you're not sure anymore. You don't say anything. You just hold his hand until the stars begin to fade. Your jaguar mask feels heavier now. You sit alone in the temple's shadow before sunrise, tracing your fingers over the fur-lined edges, the cold obsidian teeth, the carved ridges around the eyes. It once felt like power. Now it feels like memory, like a story someone else told long ago, in a world where pyramids always stood and the gods always answered. The strangers have arrived, not just in stories, not just in dreams. They walk the streets now. They stand in the marketplace, eyes narrow and mouth thin, pointing at temple walls, murmuring in their harsh tongue. They wear metal that catches the sun and shines too brightly, like something that shouldn't exist here. They carry weapons that crack the air like thunder. You saw one used 2 days ago, during what should have been a quiet visit to a village near the lake. One of the warriors with the white skin raised his stick and shouted. The sound that came next knocked you to the ground, and the man standing beside you, an elder who once carved rain glyphs into clay, was suddenly gone. No warning. No wound, just gone. You haven't spoken since. The high priests scrambled to keep the rituals flowing. More incense, more blood, more chants shouted toward a sky that no longer responds. Even. The sun feels off. Too hot. Too still. The serpent speaks less now. He watches more. You sometimes find him in the corner of the library, whispering to cracked scrolls, as though hoping they'll whisper back. You try to help. You lead the ceremonies. You carry the captives. You chant over the food, the warriors, the sick. But no matter how loud you speak, how deeply you cut, how long you fast, nothing changes. The city begins to fray. The markets are quieter. The laughter has thinned. The flowers on the altars wilt too quickly now, as though tired of pretending. The gods are still present. You know they are, but they are silent. Or watching, or waiting. Some priests begin to leave. Not in disgrace, just in stillness. They vanish between rituals. A robe left behind. A mask resting neatly by a door, as though they've accepted something the rest of you still refuse to name. You think of following, but something roots you. Not duty, not pride. Something else. One night, each Taka finds you on the temple steps. He sits beside you, shoulder to shoulder, and says, "I think it's already happened." You don't need to ask what he means. The fall, the end. He continues, voice soft. It's like we're still here, but only the way fire still dances just before it goes out. You nod. Because you feel it too. The next morning the city gathers. Not for a ceremony, for a decision. The emperor himself appears, taller than you remember, voice clearer than you expect. He says the gods must still be honored, that the invaders must be studied, that no violence will be met with violence unless forced. Some cheer. Others turn away. You do neither, because you already know this isn't about politics or conquest. It's about belief. And belief is unraveling. You lead one final ceremony at the pyramid's peak. You choose your own offerings. Honey, obsidian dust, feathers, a single frog carved from jade. You speak a new prayer. one you wrote the night before. If the world must change, let us remember the sound of our own names. You don't ask for safety. You don't ask for victory. You ask for memory. When the ceremony ends, no one claps. No drums, no shouts. Just quiet wind. You descend the steps barefoot, your jaguar mask in your hands. Later, you pack a small bundle, your codex, a woven mat, the last scroll you copied yourself, and a dried flower from your mother's garden. You do not announce your departure. You just walk out of the city. Into the jungle. You pass warriors, too tired to raise their hands. Merchants pretending not to cry. Children still playing, as if the world hasn't changed. And maybe for them, it hasn't. Not yet. You find shelter in a stone cave draped with vines. You build a fire. You whisper the names of the gods. Just once, then you let them go. The sky above you is wide and dark and silent. And for the first time in years, your dreams are your own. The jungle has swallowed you gently. Weeks or maybe months have passed since you left the city. Time moves differently out here. The sun rises through mist. The birds call long before you open your eyes, and your feet no longer flinch when, stepping onto wet stone or over thick vines, you've built a rhythm. You wake at dawn, bathe in the slow-moving stream beside your shelter, and sit cross-legged on a woven mat facing east. You don't chant anymore, not in full, but you hum. Low tones, half melodies that drift into the trees and dissolve into morning light. You think the trees like them. You still wear the jaguar cloak. It's more of a blanket now, a reminder, a comfort, a skin you don't shed, even if the world that gave it meaning has changed. Your codex grows slowly, one entry a day, sometimes more. No longer prayers or omens, just noticing. A red bird who lands near your fire and stares without blinking. The moss that crept over your old sandals in 3 days flat. The way clouds pass across the moon like it's shy. You never name the strangers. You never write conquest or death or collapse. You don't need to. The gods may be silent, but the land remembers everything. You spend time building simple things. A wind catcher made of reeds. A circle of stones around your fire. A bowl carved from dark wood. These are your new rituals. No blood, no drums. Just hands shaping the world in quiet ways. Sometimes you hear voices at night, that not human ones, old gods. Maybe or memories, or the trees themselves, murmuring among their roots. Once, while collecting water, you hear a child's laugh echo through the ravine. You freeze, listen. It comes again, clear, warm, gone before you can find it. You smile for the rest of the day. You haven't smiled like that in a long time. One afternoon, you climb a hill of stone and moss and look out over the green horizon. Far to the west, you see the hazy outline of what might have been the city. A thin column of smoke rises. Wood fire, not war. Someone still lives there, or returns. And for a moment, your breath catches, because you realize it didn't end. Not completely. The temples may crack, the rituals may fade, but belief doesn't need a pyramid. It needs a heart. You feel yours still beating. You light a fire that night, not for prayer, but for warmth. You boil maize. You drink cacao laced with chili and wild honey. You press your palm to the dirt floor and whisper the names of three. People kolon nene tl dot htaca dot your mother. The stars wheel overhead. No strange omens tonight. Just constellations you've known since childhood. You recognize the jaguar, the maize goddess, even the laughing frog tucked between two branches of the Milky Way. You lie down, pull the cloak over your chest, and close your eyes. The jungle hums around you, and you feel maybe for the first time in a very long while, not holy, not powerful, not afraid, just alive, and that is enough, and now, as the final embers of your jungle fire begin to fade, you breathe slower, the stone beneath your mat is warm, still holding the sun's memory. The soft chirp of frogs echoes in the darkness, joined by the gentle rustle of distant trees, a chorus of leaves and wings and unseen life, rocking the forest to sleep. You close your eyes, letting your heartbeat match the rhythm of the crickets. Your jaguar cloak, no longer a symbol of war or ritual, simply rests over you now, like a story that is finished being told. You were once a boy chosen by eclipse. You became a priest, a warrior, a guide, a listener. You watched a world rise and another begin. But tonight, none of that matters. Tonight, you are simply a breath in the jungle, a name in the wind, a line written carefully in the dark, hoping someone, someday, will read it and remember. The gods are quiet, but they are not gone. They move in the vines, in the stars, in the steam that curls from your morning tea. And if they speak to you again, it will be not with thunder, but with stillness. So rest. Now. Let your bones settle. Let your spirit drift. Let the jungle hold you, and may your dreams be gentle. Sweet dreams.